These are by Joey Alison Sayers. They originally came out on Microcosm Publishing in 2009, 2010, 2011. And these are one of the early comics that I got hold of when I was questioning my gender, trying to make sense of stuff. And you have to remember as well, like in 2010, as weird as it may sound, but the people that were there at the time will remember, like, no one was saying transgender, no one was saying non-binary. That wasn't part of the language in 2010 at all. It really wasn't. And reading these by Joey, um, these are these are comics that collect short autobiographical stories of her experiences of coming out as a trans woman and living as a trans woman, um, and transitioning to live her life as a woman, interweaved with family and humor and sadness and um, a lot of feelings that I think it's safe to say most trans people feel. So these went out of print, and when my friend CJ was really kind of starting up Black Lodge Press a bit more, I told them like they have to reprint these, like they absolutely have to. So they probably did a reprint in 2014, 2015, 2016. There might be a date somewhere. Um, yes. So came out 2009. Black Lodge Press reprinted 2014, and now the second edition is long out of print. Um, yeah, these were such a lifesaver for me from like not knowing anyone who was trans to completely feeling isolated to feeling like I found a lighthouse. And Joey is such a nice person. We've chatted quite a few times over the years. Um, yeah, just they had they've had a long career in comics. She's done a lot of work for the Nib and something else that I'm gonna show you. These comics really meant the world to me when I found them. There was a lot of like big questions over my head at the time of like, well, if you feel like A, but the world perceives you as B, how do you go about changing that? Whether through like perception or through your body, legally, admin, jobs. And this just felt a bit of like, this is a real person who is so funny. Like there's so much humor in this. It felt like, okay, here's a real person living their life, has a long-term partner. It kind of felt like, is it is it is going to be okay. And just like kind of showing examples of like how people can choose to react when they might perceive you as a dude but you aren't, and just moving on with it instead of deciding to ask 21 questions. Yeah. And when we first started like sending emails to each other, I would ask like, is there going to be an issue 3? But I think she decided not to, and I think that makes sense in the long run. I think there's no filler with these. Like every comic has a purpose, and it doesn't feel like she's going over like old ground. Just bear in mind this was written 2009, so if any of this stuff, I'm sure some people will be like, this is really not the words anymore, but this is 2009. And here's Joey like getting all worked up, starting a new job, and saying like, I am a woman, and if you have an issue with that, like, I can't take this job. And just kind of like getting all stressed out, and then their coworker, their boss, is like, that's totally fine with me. Like, not every reaction's like that, but I've had times where I'm like stressing about telling someone that I go by they, them, and I'm non-binary, and mama lips and all this, and some people really do make a big deal of it, and some people are literally like, okay, what's your favorite band, like, and just moving on. These true fantasies segments are just very, very relatable. Essentially, like Joey with these comics in terms of being a like trans woman and a woman, like, of course, it just feels like in this part of her life, she's like, there was a happily ever after, like, I made it, I survived. Just like, I don't know, I feel like so many comics are about the bad feelings, or like hate crimes and being kicked out of the family home. This felt like, no, like that, it just a really refreshing perspective. This one was so funny because, yeah, very relatable. Just Joey's like smile at the end. Skip this one. Trying to spare Joey some privacy. Yeah, this one as well, just about coming to the conclusion that feels so logical of, in order to truly be who I am, I'm going to move basically to the middle of nowhere and be alone for the rest of my life. And then I can finally be who I am and I'll be happy. Just feels very like Tina Belcher. Yeah. Anyway, this video's getting pretty long. Oh, and just like, yeah, that last one's really nice. And then this is something fictional that Joey did for Paper Cutter issue 16, and it's quite a long comic for an anthology. I'm quite surprised she didn't just self-publish it. And I thought this story was so good. Kind of inspired me to start a comic idea of my own, just based off of reading this one from Joey. I'll go through this one a bit faster, but essentially, Professor Pearson works at a school and he's a science teacher, and wants all the kids to be really engaged and find it all really fun, and he's a bit of a cringy triad teacher with all the kids, and all of his co-workers just ignore him, and he is essentially like the feeling that's getting like put across is he is a loser. Like nobody likes him, even though he's so nice. All the kids do a science fair, and it's all based around the teacher and basically being a loser. And the kids almost kill him. And they all laugh about it. And somehow he gets suspended. And he goes home and makes this strange concoction. Wakes up next to this kind of imaginary friend. And kind of like in a Fargo, like season 1 way, and this came out first, then the TV show of Fargo, for the record. But this imaginary friend is basically interpreting the professor's wishes as taking these kids out. And he's basically worried, like, wait, did that happen? Like, is that going to happen? And he can't get hold of Carl, the imaginary friend. And he's getting really, really paranoid. And he, kind of like that True Fantasies comic, he basically like disappears into the woods in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And there's a epilogue where basically there's a new teacher. He's been replaced. Sorry about the dog next door. And no one even like takes a minute to think about the professor. It's just like such a sad comic, but really well told. Yeah. I thought it was great. I thought it was yeah, just like a really full, solid comic. I don't know, like 20 pages or so. But yeah, you can only get that story in here. And I think these you can actually read maybe now on Joey's website. So yeah. And yeah, she still does stuff for the Nib and things like that. So check her out. Comics that probably saved my life at some point. Thanks.